I,
sir.
I think I would have been intimidated sitting with those guys. That was awesome, though.
Yeah, that
Pure
was a good time.
greatness.
That was
I
a
was
good
proud
time.
of you.
Thank you. I think I slipped some York right in there, but it was good. I enjoyed it. All right.
I still think we need to try to get Dennis's movement of put into the work. If,
Do what?
if y'all, Dennis has his little moves when
Oh
when he
yeah.
says rise, then he does this, and so we're trying to work on getting the committee on work to add that
Yeah. Can we get that in the
motion.
monitor? Yeah.
Yes.
Man. So
But
I just
I don't know if we could ever do it because it's difficult to get people to go from doing this to doing this.
Yeah, it's got to be a
oh
Yes,
he's gotta start at
uh,
hip and like
yes, there is a
yep.
definite, there is a defined way that I do my work.
needs a certain amount of flair to it.
Yes,
Oh
yes,
yeah.
A little
I have to
pizzazz.
have my flair.
Nice. I
But
don't want to tell
anyways,
everybody if you guys in the Zoom should already have access to it, but I'm really excited about this upcoming episode that Dennis and I recorded earlier this week. It's going to be coming out tomorrow at noon with Brother Pete Norman, and man, that's
yeah, it was a good one.
that's like usually when we do videos. There's a certain amount of there's quite a bit of editing that has to go in. There's kind of like some spots where there's some uncertainty, like some real quiet spots, and like well, it's kind of it's just part of the editing process, right? Brother Norman, he came prepared. He had everything he wanted to talk about on this piece of paper, and that is the probably one of the densest videos that we have ever done. I had to do minimal editing to this thing because it was like from start to finish was Pete just like spitting out facts the whole time, just sharing info, and it's I listened to it a few times. I have to listen to it a few more times because it is dense and it is awesome. I'm
Yeah,
excited.
the at the end, I actually referenced that the last time there's anything like this was when we did our interview together.
Hmm.
When Justin interviewed me originally before I came on the show, and it was the same way. I had everything written down and ready to go, and I had put a lot of thought into it. And what's crazy about this episode with Pete is that I had called him. Now I had talked to him about it before, but I had called him that morning and said, "Hey, can you jump on the show tonight? What time? Sure." I'll be in a tie in plaid shorts. I said, I don't need to know about your shorts. But but he came in and he was ready to go. That
Hmm.
was it was a really good show.
Yeah, normally we have a
Best
little bit of
best practice logic.
yes. We normally have a little bit of warm up question kind of till we kind of get into the meat of things. And we asked like one or two. He's like, let's just get into this.
Well,
He's like, let's cut to
he
it.
was already answering them in
Yeah,
the questions that we asked. He was already going 2 and 3 ahead just naturally.
yeah,
So it just kind of worked out great. It was a good interview.
yeah. I hope to have him back because he teased me and Dennis afterwards with some pretty interesting stuff, and I think that'll be good
Yep.
content. And
Yep. I
I'd love to
agree.
share that. So keep your eyes peeled. Like you guys in the circle here, it's already there. So tomorrow on your way to work or whatever. I mean, it's like an hour and a half long, I think, but maybe not quite an hour and a half. But check it out, listen to it, and those of you that are not in the inner circle that are just watching this. By the time you probably get around to watching this, unless you're in chat right now, it's going to drop Monday the 19th at noon Texas time, CST. So check it out. I'm very excited.
Yeah, it was a good one.
Absolutely.
So I got a question. So is there anything that anybody wants to talk about before I do this shoot out this question?
I do have something to talk with you about probably tomorrow or something, but
I
it's
want to
not something
say
we have to talk
one.
about here.
I want to say one thing. We were talking about exams and getting certificates before we came on live,
Hmm.
and I wanted to mention to Josh, um, you know, whenever you first became a Mason, it took you several months to learn the EA. I would give yourself that same amount of time. Don't be too hard on yourself. You know, don't worry about you gotta. I mean, a lot of people as they're learning, they think I should be further along than I really am right now, and really you might should be, but I wouldn't be too hard on yourself and give yourself that amount of time, the same amount of time it took you originally to learn it, because you know that's what I tell everybody that I teach.
Yeah,
Is
but
that it took me several months to learn this, and you know you're not going to get it overnight.
yeah,
Oh yeah, my problem is that I know I shouldn't be like this, but in my head, I'm like, I need to be letter perfect, and I know it's like you're okay, but if I miss one word different, I'm like, what am I thinking, And so, my problem is, went through all the work. I mean, I got the opening and closings down pretty pat, but it's in fellow craft and mason and the master masons. I got the Q&A, but that second section, I just need to sit down with, one of our A certificate holders and run through it for, a month or two, and I'll have it down. It's just a matter of me sitting down and finding the time to do it.
That's right.
Being a workshop master and Goliad, and my kids going back to school tomorrow with football, volleyball, cross country, cheerleading. It's like, it's a little time consuming after a while. So I just need to carve out some time and just get it done and buckle down.
To that point, and this does not just apply to memory work, but it can apply to anything in Freemasonry. You can't, don't fall into the habit of comparing yourself to someone else, right? This guy, he's got a certificate, he learned it in 6 months. It might take you a year, it might take you a year and a half. Everyone has a different way of learning, right? Everyone has different things that they're doing. You might have more to juggle every day than this guy that did it in 6 months. He might be retired and have all the time in the world. Don't compare yourself to other people. Just do you, and as long as you're making progress, when you're ready, the results will be there. And that applies to like presentations, doing degrees, getting a certificate, anything along those lines. Like don't let yourself get compared, because somebody said a minute ago you might not be as far along as you should be, and I don't remember who said that, but it doesn't matter. But the question is really compared to who, right? If you set your own goals and you're not meeting that goal, that's probably the only person you should ever compare yourself to is yourself, right? So when you're going to a forum, for example, since that was the topic, you might go sit there and you might know that this guy's a younger Mason than you and he's turning in an A and you're working on a C. So what, man? As long as you're making progress, as long as you're working towards bettering yourself and whatever's important to you in Freemasonry. I mean, just because they have an A doesn't mean they're going to do anything with it. You might get a C and roll on to an A and become a district discharge or something. Who knows? So don't compare your journey to other people, I guess is my point, because we have so many, our paths are so different.
Just compare yourself to me and you can't go wrong. If you compare yourself with me, then the bar
Do we
is
really want to talk about how floor school went on Wednesday when you were
exactly the bar is so low that you don't have to.
So low.
Yes, it is, because I am so low.
I mean,
That's why we call him Han. He's solo.
on Solo.
I was thinking Red Solo Cup.
Okay.
I fill you up.
Don't
Yeah.
Do y'all know that song? Do y'all not know that song? Is there a problem here? You guys just cannot be Texan.
So
I know the song. It's the only song I sing karaoke when I go, but yeah, I'm just trying to encourage some more brothers from not just Goliad, but some of the other lodges to work on getting their C at least, because at some point we're going to need more instructors than what we have.
I'm just looking at a very interesting conversation in chat real quick.
Well, let's see what they say, because I've got a question.
Oh, the one in chat?
Yeah.
Oh, aspiring Mason from previous video. Info came to me. I've verified over the past year that a Masonic Landmark is being used to traffic drugs in my city. I need help. Meeting with the lodge next month with the news. So that's why I'm like, what the heck? But yeah.
A Masonic Landmark? So like a place where people used to meet Masonically?
I don't know, dude. Anytime I see something like that, I'm like, my immediate thought is because you got like so many clandestine lodges and stuff doing, who knows
Right.
what, or people saying they're in Freemasons doing who knows what, but it's not it's not Freemasons. It's not actual Freemasons. That's not what we do, right? So, I mean, we've tried a lot of crazy things for fundraising, but not drugs. So, yeah,
Not yet, anyways.
yeah. So
It's
I
not
don't
legal
know.
in Texas yet.
Spokane, Washington. Yeah, it's not us. No, they might be using one of our own buildings, one of our old buildings, or they might be saying they're Masons, but it's not us. So
Right.
I don't know what you want from what do you want from us, what kind of info you want from us. But I mean, if it's illegal, regardless of what the organization is, then they'll get shut down. So there you go. Anyway, yeah, that caught my
All
attention.
right.
I was like, what? Go ahead.
All right, so here's my question. So now I had a pretty long talk with Robert Park yesterday, and we were talking about altruism. And I mean, the man is brilliant, and he was able to talk about the different psychological and scientific methods in determining if your motives are altruistic or not.
Can we?
Does everybody know what altruistic means?
I was going to say, can you just go ahead and define what you mean by that, just so we're on the same page?
Okay, so I'm going to tell you what the definition is, but I don't agree with this definition to a big degree. Unselfish concern for the welfare of others, selflessness. That would be better as selflessness.
Okay.
Instinctive behavior that is detrimental to the individual but favors the survival or spread of that individual's genes as by benefiting its relatives. So, like,
Throwing yourself in front of a car to save your kid kind of thing?
yeah, that kind of thing, yeah. And then regard to others, both natural and moral, devotion to the interests of others, brotherly kindness, opposed to egotism and selfishness. So now, I'm thinking, and I don't like these definitions really. I think that the psychological world out there, they have a little bit different definition in altruism, but which I agree with a little bit more. But how do you guys feel about what you're doing in Masonry or what you're doing in general in life? Do you feel like you are being altruistic? Because ultimately that's what we're being taught, right? Is that our goal is to be altruistic in nature and doing things for the benefit of others without potential gain to ourselves. Now, this is a trick question. I'm going to go ahead and let y'all answer before I give a reason why I don't like. I just don't think it's possible. But
Yeah,
go ahead.
it's tough.
Shoot.
I'd say anybody ask yourself why your lodge gives away scholarships.
Dang, right out of the gate.
That's my thing, because yeah, it's good, it helps them, but why do a lot of lodges do it? Because they're hoping it'll get them publicity and maybe a member or two out of it, right? It's a very expensive
Right.
advertising campaign, if you ask me, but that's a big. Of course, you have some brothers like, well, that's not why I think we do it. I think we do it to help people, and that's great if that's
Right.
what we're doing. But I say the majority of the lodges, if they're doing things like that, they're trying to get in front of people to get members.
Especially if you're telling the newspaper and all that kind of stuff about it, which I get it. You want to make headlines or whatever in some ways of showing that you're better than what you are.
Mm-hmm. I didn't mean to shut everybody down. I'm sorry.
No. Why don't you shut off a video?
Want to know what?
I
Shut
got
off
you.
one
I'm
of-
sorry, Dennis.
I
the wrong
just
button.
don't. I just felt bad for you. That's all.
Oh, what was? I didn't see.
Okay, don't
Sorry.
cut. Don't.
No, we're good. We're good. We're good.
Okay.
I
Okay.
would just say there's a brother in my lodge who's new, and he was talking hope and charity, right? You know, you can lose your faith, you can lose your hope even sometimes, but hopefully we don't lose our charity. Hopefully we don't lose what we're meant to be doing as far as charitable work, right? And part of that too is like how do we do that in a way that's meaningful, right? I can't build a hospital myself, right? But maybe I can give a couple bucks to build a hospital. But if the goal is to get advertisement out of that, that's not charitable work. That's not altruism. That's just me puffing myself up saying, look how good I am. Right. And so I think that, to Justin's point, am I giving away a scholarship because I want to get more members later on? Am I giving away a scholarship because I want to say, hey, this is what I'm doing? That is not a charitable act then. That is an advertisement with ulterior motives guised as charity.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I would. Now, I like that answer, but I'd like to challenge the thought of hoping that you keep charity if you lose hope and faith and hope, because I believe that charity is a derivative of faith and hope. I don't think you can have charity without faith and hope. That's what faith and hope creates, is charity. If you have faith in something bigger than yourself and hope for a better future for all, then your optimistic and idealistic approach to life is going to be charitable to everyone around you. It's going to be contagious. It's going to be uplifting. It's going to be, in other words, that is the essence of what creates brotherly love and affection. And that is our charity in Freemasonry, not giving money, in my opinion.
Well, allow me to go down a small rabbit hole here. And I've talked about this before, right? But faith, hope, and charity are your classical theological virtues, right? And if you look, like if you take a deep dive into the original Latin text, that the King James Version, because this is all mentioned in the Bible, faith, hope, and charity. This is where it came from. That's why it's called the theological virtues. If you look at the King James Version, it says faith, hope, charity, but at the original translation, charity is because the Greeks had, the Latin, maybe it was Greek. Either way, it was Latin or Greek. I think it might have been Greek. But the original version, let's say it was the Greeks. The Greeks had
that would be Greek.
Was it okay? They had several different types of charity, and the specific type that was mentioned wasn't charity. It was agape, which can be translated as like brotherly love, and that has a whole lot of implications. But brotherly love, if you ask me, like, give me a synonym for that, that's altruism. I'm helping my brother out without any desire for personal gain. I'm helping them out because they are family, because I care about them. And sure, and we said this before, as you grow as a person, of course you want to be charitable and you want to help out and all these things. However, I think we get so caught up in the faith, hope, charity side that we just, that's why we feel like we have to do these things. We have to do this stuff to get out in front of people and have to do these big charities, when really we should be more altruistic. Like if we want to do a scholarship, fine, but do we have to invite everybody and make a big show about it, or could we just put it in an envelope and give it to them? Don't let the left hand know what the right hand is doing, kind of mentality. That's
exactly what I was fixing to say. Is that's the epitome of don't let the right hand know what the left is doing.
Yeah,
and vice versa.
Now, if the family wants to blast it, look what the lodge gave to us. That's we can't control what they do, but why are we doing it? The reason behind it. If you have to make a big show about it, and be sure everybody in the community knows how benevolent you are, that you gave their money to somebody under your name.
That you gave their money. I love that you said that, because that's what I was thinking. I don't know if everybody else is thinking it, but that's what I was thinking.
It's the same mentality as if you saw a family say you're driving through, and I've done this before. You're driving through Walmart and you see a family, and they got kids with them, and they're whatever, like, hey, I just got fired. Christmas is around the corner, something like that. Like, please help us feed our family or something like that. It's the same mentality as if you pull over and give them a few bucks and drive on your way, or if you pull over, hold the money out, get your cell phone, and like, hey, look what I'm doing. I'm giving these poor people all this $20 or something, and they record it to TikTok.
Now I'm going to stop you right there, because you've been on a roll for a while. I've let you go down this rabbit.
Okay.
But I'm going to stop you, and the reason why is because in every one of those examples, are you really being altruistic? Because if you are giving to someone in need or whatever, ultimately it makes you feel good inside. So you are getting something. And even like I was thinking to myself, man, I gave $5 to a guy the other day that asked for bus change.
Yeah.
And I know that he probably went and did something with it. And now it's no longer altruistic, right? Because, I just told y'all, but I wouldn't have done it if there wasn't some benefit to me. It made me feel good that I was able to help him.
Yeah. I don't know. I always feel conflicted, because one hand I feel good about it, but the other hand I was like, man, I really could use that $20. but I agree with what you're saying, because ultimately we do it because we know that the good feeling that we have is going to outweigh and be more long lasting than any short term negative regret or anything like that we might have.
Right. And science is actually saying today that our brain actually seeks out that there's an actual spark in the brain every time we do something kind for somebody, even if nobody else knows about it. There's a spark in the brain. So even unconsciously, we do receive benefit from giving to somebody else, which is not altruistic, because altruistic is when your left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing, and you really are doing it just for the good of the good, and not the good of the feeling that you're going to get from it. But I'm not saying anybody is bad. I'm not judging anybody for not being altruistic. I am definitely not altruistic, but it's just a thought. So often we feel like we get up on our soapbox because we feel so self-righteous, and it can be in for God, and it can be against, well, I would say for a certain religion and against certain religions. We get on our soapbox, and so we become self-righteous and feel like we are better than those other people, because what we believe is for the good of all, not for the good of the church making money and being able to support their charities, not you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's another thing. Even the churches, I mean, it's one of the turnoffs that I have about churches sometimes, is that the charities that the money goes to are their charities for pushing the Christian narrative. It's not necessarily just for doing the charity. A lot of times it's for pushing the Christian narrative, which is one reason I love the gym project that our church does, because they just do it to help the folks in our city.
Mm-hmm.
And that's beautiful. Instead of trying to say, hey, go to church, we just pick a few houses of people in need and go take care of them.
Yeah, if you're taking a whole bunch of goods to a family in need, but at the same time you're pushing like, hey, you need to come to our church, and you believe what we believe, that's not altruism either. That's sure, you're being charitable, but you're doing it with an intent. You're being intentional in your charity.
It's because motives.
You have a motive. You have a motive.
Yes.
What's the thing we talked about last week? The difference between manipulation and leadership, right? Are you trying to manipulate people into coming to, like, they feel like they owe something, or are you trying to be a leader in your community, in your religion, whatever, and doing it because it's altruistic, because it benefits them? Are you trying to do it without any kind of benefit to yourself, but rather it helps the community, it helps the individual, it helps the family, the kids, whatever?
Yeah, when Park and I first, when this conversation started, I'm thinking, oh yeah, man, I travel around, help lodges, I'm doing presentations to help them get education and all this kind of stuff, and I'm doing it on my own dime, blah 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 blah. You know the story. I mean, everybody that does it on their own time. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm such a bad person, because that makes me feel good every time I get a phone call requesting to get a presentation. It makes me feel good.
Mm-hmm.
So, am I really doing it just for the lodges? No. I've got motives too. I enjoy doing this kind of stuff, and I'm trying to better myself in that way.
Yeah.
Which is ultimately what we're trying to do all around anyways, is better ourselves for the betterment of humanity. But at the same time, we have to reflect on these kind of conversations, because if we don't, then we can really miss the boat on why we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah, it's a good point.
And I'm going to tell you, there is not one other there's not one other person that's made themselves available that I have ever even considered having that conversation with,
Mm-hmm.
much less to the depth that we went into that conversation. I mean, it's Park is a unique person, and really has a passion for truth, and that truth is that while we certainly try our best to do good for others, the truth is that we're always doing good for ourselves at the same time.
Yeah.
And having somebody who contemplates those things, looking to be a leader in our fraternity, man, that says something. I think that, not everybody does. Not everybody just sits around and thinks about things like that, and how they can become better, and what are their motives and things like that. And he really does. And so anyways,
I want to have
that was a cool conversation that brought me down to earth, buddy, because I was feeling all here. I help people, I do this, I do that, and it's like, oh, I'm such an ass. Why do I do this?
I want to have a conversation with you, like 5-minute conversation after the live stream about him. I have something I want to pitch at you, but no, the value in that kind of discussion really is ultimately you're right. There is no real altruism, because everything we do is for some tangible or intangible. It benefits us some way, even if it's just a chemical that's releasing from a gland in our body, and we get a 10-second high off of it. Some endorphin, right?
Yeah.
But on the other hand, are we being charitable because it's the right thing to do, or are we doing it because we want to try to attract people? And
that's the importance of weighing out those differences, because we have to be on track with that.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with being charitable, and there's nothing wrong with altruism. But if you want to say, hey, we're doing this and for the purpose of it benefiting the person, then that means you're trying to be altruistic. And why are you making a big show about the scholarship presentation and telling the news and everything like that, when really you should just be putting a check in an envelope, here you go, we wish you the best, or something along those lines.
And I'd like to say also, there's nothing wrong with marketing.
There's nothing wrong with marketing.
I truly believe that we ought to, in some way, have a marketing program for our fraternity, and not to necessarily attract anybody and everybody, but to be focused on who we want to bring into the lodge. Because if you come to my lodge, I'm going to be very serious about that question, of can I join?
Mhm.
I'm not gonna let you just, come to me and ask me for a signature. I'm not that guy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make you. But let's go ahead and listen to our brothers.
Yeah. Go ahead, Josh. I saw your hand first, I think.
Well, thank you. I mean, I agree with what you're saying, and so to the backpack giveaway we had a couple weeks ago for Goliad, my wife, when we started this program, asked me, "What is your goal?" And that was the question: is what do you want to happen? Do you want to get advertisement for the lodge, or are you truly wanting to help the kids here in Goliad to be better off for the first week of school? And my answer was, the charity wise, is like, no, I want to help the kids. Now, if we get some benefit or advertisement for the lodge so that people know who we are, and I hate to use this word, but I've been using it here recently, is we get the stink off of us because a lot of people don't know what we do in lodge. And that was one of the ways that I could get out in the community, was that, hey, we're here for the community, we're here to help and things of that nature. But the main goal is that, we're going to help these kids who need school supplies to begin the school year. And so I think when you're doing events like that, whether it be a back to school drive or scholarships or whatever charitable thing we're trying to do out in the community, is a goal. You need to set a goal of saying, all right, is our goal to advertise and get people to come to lodge, or is our goal to help the community? And you need to set those goals very prominently when you're starting these activities. I mean, our main goal for when we did the backpack drive, and then 4 days later we had our back to school bash, and that we got to sit on the square and all the kids came out and they introduced the football teams and all that kind of stuff. We gave out whatever school supplies we had left. Our main goal was to give out those school supplies, but at the end of the day, we also had 6 people sign up for our scholarship, which is 2 more than we had last year, and we had 3 people who were intrigued by Masonry. Like, I've heard of it, I don't know what it is, but can you explain it to me? So, I mean, we had potentially 3 new members, which was a sub goal of the main goal, which was to get those kids help and scholarships and everything like that. So, when we're doing these type of events and things like that, it really needs to have a goal set of what is your main goal.
Agreed.
The secondary or third goal may always be that, oh yeah, we're trying to advertise for the lodge, but if your main goal is to give out backpacks or scholarships or whatever it may be, that needs to be the main goal. If you get someone to ask about Masonry, that's all fine and dandy, but that's like the last thought in your head.
Right. Well, if somebody asks, I mean, they're going to ask. They're going to ask in any situation. So that just happened to be the time that presented itself. And sometimes it is a double-edged sword, and you have to be right in your head, which you don't want to market yourself while you're doing it, but sometimes you have to market to get people to come to get those backpacks, right? So you had to have some kind of marketing effort to do that. The big thing is that once they're there, do you really want to, push Freemasonry, or do you want to give backpacks? And I think that you did the right thing. You gave a lot of backpacks and hot dogs, and kudos to you. You did a great job.
Okay.
Great job, Worshipful Master. What you got, Daniel?
I think for us sometimes, for me, let me phrase. I think sometimes people start out, we're pretty low level creatures at times, right? We are self-serving, and it is a journey to learn to be altruistic. It is a journey to learn to be charitable, and to give of yourself without thinking of yourself and what gains you, right? A lot of people, there's a theory called vertical development, kind of 3 different levels. First, you want to fit in, then secondly, you want to, what's in it for me? And then the third level is that true kind of almost, you might call it an enlightened state, where it's let me help myself, but let me help others as well, right? We're all going to improve by doing this and doing it together. And for a lot of people, they get stuck at that second level of what's in it for me, right? What am I going to get out of this? And I think for a lot of people, that is the entry to learning how to be charitable, right? They still want to get something out of it, not necessarily because they're a bad person, but they just don't know yet how to give of yourself and that could be service with time, with money, with other things, right? And I think a lot of times it's learning to give outside of yourself and go like, oh, I do feel good about this. Oh, this does feel nice when I do this. Oh, like maybe that is that chemical thing. And then all of a sudden it becomes more natural state to then do that more often. And then it becomes like, well, man, it isn't really about me. It isn't about being Mr. Beast on YouTube and giving away millions of dollars, thousands of dollars to people and recording myself. It's actually a lot nicer when I do it and I don't record myself and I don't do those things. And then people learn, you really are becoming charitable in the true sense and loving your brothers and loving your fellow man without having to get the reward of it, because you realize, man, it is nicer just to do that, right? And I like what was being said right now, right, with Josh. There was a point where it's like, yeah, it's kind of nice if they're going to ask, but that's not the purpose of doing it, right? Mm-hmm. That's the purpose is going out in the community, building the community, making the community better. And the side benefit of that is, hey, people now recognize us with being a little nicer and a little kinder, right? And that's the end goal, right? I would love to see something, there's numbers thrown around with how much money Freemasons give and things like that. It'd be nice to actually see that number a little more firm, but also it doesn't need to be this lodge or that lodge, right? It's like, hey, as a fraternity, this is what we do.
Yeah.
And that would be nice to see that too, to be able to say like, it's not about, what I did, it's about what we did together and how we were able to harness the power of all being together and doing that.
I like that. I just want to revisit like what Dennis said. Like, there's nothing wrong with marketing yourself. I just want to be clear about that. However, if a lodge wants to make that a primary goal, and I've seen this where lodges their primary goal for their scholarships. I say scholarships just because it's a lot of lodges do it, and it's pretty relative to a lot of things we do. It's pretty expensive. If you want to do something and your goal is marketing, you have to also say, this is not just my goal, but how's it quantifiable? What's the data look like? Is this achieving the goal or not? And if you're giving away scholarships, which I'm not saying is a bad thing by any means, but if you're doing that with the prime intent of marketing yourself, for most lodges, that is a terrible return on investment.
That's a bad marketing plan.
Yeah, because
your ROI is so low. Because you're giving $1,000 to one kid.
Yeah,
maybe 3,000, 4,000 to 4 people, if you're lucky.
Well, then the issue
you get a better return having paying somebody to spin one of those signs outside, pointing to your lodge.
Well, say you give $1,000 to a kid that's about to go to college, and say they do petition the lodge. What's going to happen in about 4 years? If they're going somewhere local,
they're gonna forget about us.
they're not gonna stick around. And I have seen this where a kid, it was the worship master, his son petitioned a lodge. We're going to go to college station. I'm going to leave in like 4 months. So why are we doing an EA on this kid? Right? It's the same thing. If you're trying to get people and you're giving it the money to a kid still that's going to be leaving in a few months to go halfway across the state or out of state, they're not ever going to pay you dues or anything. I mean, you'll get a degree fee out of them, maybe 2, if you're not doing your due diligence and actually making them learn stuff along the way.
Well, the data states that in reality, a lot of the brothers that join when they're young, like 20 some odd years, we lose them by the time they're 30 because they end up getting a family and all that kind of stuff, and like life takes over.
What was it, 35? Was that the number?
No, it was 30.
Was it 30?
That was the magic number. They usually before 30 they'll drop out, and they're just lost in being, parents and all that, Saturday soccer and all that kind of good stuff. Mm-hmm. That's the reality. So, who is our target audience that we really want that's going to stick with us? It's men over 30. That's who our target audience should be if we're going to truly market ourselves as a fraternity. because they've already gone to college if they're going to go. They've already started their family if they're going to do it, and or most of the time.
Yeah.
And they're established enough to where they know what their schedule is. They're not at McDonald's this week and Whataburger next week, and then don't know if they're going to be here in the next year or not. You know, they're not. I was a kid, you know.
Yeah.
When I was 19, I or actually before that, I went through jobs, and so I wasn't very stable. So young guys, they become more stable as they get a little bit older around that age. So if they're right over 30, man, they're the prime people, and they're the ones that are also going to start questioning existence, because they've always they were taught one thing growing up, then they started experiencing something different as they got married and was challenged with thoughts of their spouse, and now they're starting to question things on a different level. So I think that's our target market, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. If you're around that age, 30ish, you're more likely to be. If I petition a lodge in my community, I'm more likely going to be in that community for quite a while, especially if I have kids. I'm probably not going to take them. When you're 21, 22, you don't have anybody. You don't have kids. You're probably not married. You can go do whatever you want, and there's no ramifications, especially if you're already paying just $50 a month to be in your lodge anyway. Who cares, right? I just do whatever I want, go wherever I want. But if like you said, you're getting kind of that age, especially with the male mind. They've done research lately. Like your mind as a male doesn't really, and no, scientifically, it doesn't really stop developing until 26 or 27. That's kind of the magic number.
I can attest to that, as I have a 20-year-old who has, for lack of better words, hasn't done that yet. So yeah, I get it.
You never did the pull my finger joke on him?
Thank you.
I have, but yeah, that's not what that was.
I hope to God he's not doing the pull my finger.
Yeah, he's yeah. Hence why his phone is sitting in Louisiana right now, and he's in the valley because he left it in his buddy's truck overnight. So yeah, good times.
But yeah,
he's a goofball.
It's all about knowing your demographic, right? We know they're males, right? Hopefully, if you're a regular lodge, it's males and 30 or older. I don't know what the cap is on that.
If you're a lodge in Texas, it is a male, because that has been defined by our Grandmaster that you have to be genetically a male, not genetically changed.
Yeah, we can't.
If that makes
you can't genetically change, but yeah, I know what you mean.
If that makes sense, I don't pay attention to a lot of that, woke stuff these days. Yeah. So I just whatever it is. But yeah, in Texas, we have a certain demographic.
Yeah. So
those are. Go ahead.
Drop my video for a second. I'm still here. I just got to go run and do something real quick. I'm listening though.
But those are things that we ought to think about. Also when we do market, that, we may have 5,000 people in our city, but only half of those are males. So that takes, that drops you down to 2,500 people out of the population to get. So let me use Goliad as a for instance. So we have 2,000 people in our town. So we only have 1,000 men in our town that could be potentially Masons. And then you take that and you divide it by, different stigmatisms for religion. There are certain religions that they are not going to be so apt to do that. So in our town, we have 3 different churches that I am certain if they are serious members of their church, they're not going to want to join. So out of the 5 churches, do we have 5 or 6? Well, let's say 6. Out of the 6 churches, 3 of them, those men are going to be out. So then you've cut yourself in half again, because everybody in Goliad goes to church. At least it seems like it. You go to Dairy Queen afterwards, or Jalisco's, or any of the restaurants, and you know that everybody just got back from church.
You
But
can't go to a restaurant at noon because everybody's getting out of church.
yeah, exactly. So the reality is that, then so you cut it in half, and then you cut it in half again, and so now you're down to what, 500 potential men. Now, out of those 500 men, how many are 60 plus that aren't really going to join? That's really in Goliad, the demographic would be that's the majority. So let's take another 60% off, and then you've got 40% left out of that 40%. So we're down to what, 250, and then out of that 40%, then you've got then you got to think about, who's over the age of 30. So let's just be easy and just split it in half. So you have a potential of 125 people in Goliad that might, make a Mason, that might want to be a Mason at some point. And those are slim pickings. So if you're going to do marketing, you better do some serious targeted marketing for those type of for that 125 people that could potentially become a Mason, because the given scholarships isn't going to get you there, because actually the parents of those scholarship recipients are probably 40 plus years old, and they would have done it already by now if it was,
Yeah.
Because our town is so small that they know about us already.
Well, and to your point, Dennis, with the demographic of the 3 people that we had inquire about masonry while we were doing our back to school drive, one of those guys was from Victoria. He was an EMT that works here in Goliad. He lives in Victoria. So, of course, Brother Burris and us, we were like, well, there's a lodge in Victoria. You can join that one. You don't have to join Goliad. So it may not necessarily, when we're doing these type of things, it may not necessarily be someone that's going to join our lodge.
Don't curse him like that.
I know, but he doesn't watch these things, so it's okay. But I was saying is, it may not somebody that be in our community, but they're there for the event.
Right.
Goliad has all these events, back to school, scare squares, Christmas and Goliad, all this kind of things. So it may not necessarily be someone who's going to petition our lodge, but it may benefit the fraternity as someone who's going to petition their lodge when they get back to their town, whether it be, Victoria, Portland, Corpus, San Antonio, all that kind of stuff. So, it may not benefit our lodge, but it will benefit the fraternity in the end.
I was thinking about the whole altruistic thing to go back to what you were asking about. I didn't get really a chance to answer, but I was thinking about, and not to change the subject to what you guys are talking about, because I do have some on that. But basically, I was born very selfish as a baby. And as I got into high school, I was super duper selfish, and then moved out on my own, and my life was all about me. And then I met my wife, and slowly but surely, little by slowly, I became less and less selfish and more selfless, because I have to, stay married. Um, and then when I became a Mason, it's also helping me become less and less selfish and self-seeking, and I'm doing more things for other people. So it's been a journey from being super 100% selfish to less selfish.
That's an extremely good point, because that's true with all people. And because when we're babies, it's all about me, because I require you to feed me, I require you to bathe me, I require you to do everything for me. So yeah, it's all about you. And as you get older, and it's not until you're 20 that you really, and it's still all about you in a real way, because then you're making your own money, and it's definitely all about you. When you start making your own money, it is definitely all about what you want to spend your money. Nobody's
right.
going to tell you what to do. And then, as you get older, things change, right? So I think you hit a very serious point that would also be important to recognize in that marketing, because we all go through that, and we go through it at different stages too. And that should be something that we're paying attention to when we're looking at these candidates when they are knocking on the door, and consider where they are in their journey. And if they're doing it for, like Daniel said before, if they're doing it for the what's in it for me, or if they're doing it for interest in what they can become, not what I can get, but what can I become when I do this? Where can I go with this, as opposed to what are you going to give me? And it's that old bait and switch that the Illuminati people always throw out there. If you're going to get rich, you're going to get $1 million, blah, blah, blah. And everybody falls for it and gives them $5,000. And, but that's why they're successful at scamming people, is because they pick on people that are in that what's in it for me stage. That's their demographic, and they find it, and they get their money. But we're looking for the people that are what can I become type of people. That's a good thought to put forward.
Very wise. I like that. It's very good. Also, the fact these Illuminati pyramid schemes exist tell me that we still charge way too little in our lodge level.
Oh,
The
yeah.
fact that those can function.
Well, when somebody that can't afford, to rub two nickels together, they put out, $250 to $500 to join a group, thinking that they're going to make some money off of it. I mean, that just tells you right there.
Yeah, I agree. What else do we got tonight, gentlemen?
So I was thinking about what y'all were talking about the target audience of who we're looking for. And weirdly, what I was thinking about was my efforts up here in Roy City. Since I became a Mason, I've learned that we've got 60 members at our lodge, but I only see about 15 of them on a monthly basis. And so I'm like, well, why am I only seeing about 15 people on a monthly basis? So I started calling these guys, because I got the list of names and I got their phone numbers, and I started calling them. And believe it or not, that has proven valuable by reaching out to these guys and calling them, because I've actually got a new guy wanting to petition the lodge from another guy that hadn't been coming, just because he's busy, he travels for work and stuff, but whenever he's coming back to town, he does come to lodge. But he's got a friend that's been asking him how to be a Mason for a long time. And so he goes, and he asked me just recently, and he goes, here's his number, will you call him? I was like, sure. So I call him, and this guy's actually showing up to every event that we've got. We went to Rainbow Girls installation this Saturday, and then after that we went to go visit a brother in the hospital who is suffering from Alzheimer's and whatever. But anyway, I did the grip with the guy, and like his face lit up, like he knew what I was saying to him, and he wasn't all there until I did that, and then his face lit up, and then I was wearing my shirt, and I go like that, and he goes like that, and it was that was one of those things that I was trying to do for him and for his wife, but man, I got so much more out of it than they did, I feel like. Anyway.
Yeah. That's one of the hard things that they don't tell you about when you join Freemasonry, is that you see a lot. I'm not saying that this was the case with you, but you see A lot of the people that are your mentors that you look up to when you first join, you're gonna see them not even knowing who you are at one point, and that's really rough. Like some of the guys I really looked up to, they're not around anymore, including my granddad, and that's not what they tell you. It's not something we talk about, but we're forced to bury a lot of our mentors. It's just with this. I mean, I don't know if you want to call it a generational gap or what, but you have this older generation who, I mean, they are the powerhouses of Freemasonry, and you go to a lot of these lodges, and they're the people that are teaching everybody all the work. They're doing the degrees, and you build a relationship with them early on, and then before you know it, it's just what happens. I mean, medical technology has come so far, but it still hasn't tackled the dementia issue, and that's what seems to really get a lot of. If you live long enough, you'll get dementia at some point. Unfortunately, it seems like.
Speaking of mentors, there's the brother that is usually the secretary at for the Knights of Mecca, that always does the secretariat at the degree.
Bob Foster.
Yeah, he passed away. And so just because he went out of his way to help, he was extremely old and extremely fragile, like most people are when they get old, but he was still out there working for our fraternity, and I think that he deserves a lot of respect and love for that.
And that says a lot about the value of our fraternity too, because like something you said, you'll see older men that would not leave the house for just about anything coming to lodge, right? Like made of glass people, right? Where they'll still go out of their way and they'll still come to lodge. That says a lot about how much value did this bring to this person's life.
Yeah, Howard Geary was like that in my lodge in Goliad. He was just a good person, good-hearted, always came, didn't speak a lot, visited a little bit, but didn't really, he wasn't a boisterous person, just went to help and was always there. And he was influential in the York Rite, Scottish Rite, and especially the Blue Lodge. And he was another one of those that just a silent mentor to a lot of people. Mm-hmm. He was a good guy. What's interesting, and I was thinking about this as you were talking, Justin. If you look at that scale that Brad brought up, going from selfishness to unselfishness, I think when you are at that age, that's really when altruism really starts kicking in, because you really, at that point, you have nothing to prove. Yeah. There's no reason that you have to do anything, and nobody would ever fault you for doing anything other than just being at home. But yet you're still coming in, plugging away, doing your best to support the young men that are in our fraternity. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, man, that just kind of.
Well, you never know.
That was a good thought right there.
You never know if you have tomorrow. However, the older you get, the smaller and smaller that probability gets too. And say you're 95 years old, if you're doing something to help somebody, that you might die in your sleep that night. That's pure altruism. You're not doing it for something that's going to benefit you down the way. You're doing it because it's the right thing to do. I agree.
Bob Foster gave me my apron and my master degree. He's the one that gave me my apron, and I went to his funeral, and I wore that apron at his funeral. Wow. But nice. he had an amazing funeral. The guy that did the Masonic burial service, it was really good. Like, he did really, really good. And there was about 40 Masons there for that. Nice. And then he was a fire captain for the Dallas Fire Department. So the fire, they have like a team called the Final Alarm or whatever.
Yes.
They come out and do the burial service for them, and they ring the bell, and it was really, really good too.
Nice.
Yeah, it's called the last call. They'll do the last call and ring the bell and go through all that. I've done that way too many times, unfortunately.
Yeah. Bob Foster was a really good guy. He was good.
Well, since it is getting late, and I know we normally start wrapping up, I don't want to end on a negative note tonight because we're kind of ending on a pretty morbid. I want to.
Well, it may be morbid, but it's sensitive. It's. I don't see it as negative. So go ahead, but go ahead anyways.
Justin, before you
That's free.
change the subject on morbid stuff, I have two things I want to bring up real quick.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's what the skulls are for.
Go ahead.
Two things. One, we have a brother in Goliad. His mom is coming off of dialysis, and if anybody knows what that means, she is not long for this world. So that he's going through that. And also, the Worshipful Master of Victoria was involved in a motorcycle crash on Friday.
Oh man!
So he I don't know if he still is or not, but he was in Bamsey in San Antonio. Had a ruptured spleen, had to have surgery, a couple broken ribs.
Wow.
But yeah, he's pretty banged up right now. He's doing better, but he's pretty banged up. So you guys can remember those two. But yeah, I don't know when Cope's coming home, Dennis, but he messaged the other day. He was on Facebook earlier, so I'm assuming he's doing better. But yeah, he wrecked his motorcycle and everything. So
Yikes.
while we're on that subject, yeah.
So I'm glad that's all it was.
Yeah, me too.
Well, now I feel like a jerk for even bringing this up.
Oh, that's why I wanted to bring it up now. I mean, we're done with the board stuff. Yeah,
You're a jerk. You're a jerk.
Justin, go ahead and do what you got to do.
On a positive note, the current subscribers we have on Masonic Improvement is 14,967. We are right there at the 15,000 mark. So anyone watching this, please subscribe, please share, because we are like right there at that threshold. Dennis, when we started, we were less than, I think we were
less
5,
than 10.
5 or 6,000.
We were way down.
Yeah, and so it's grown a lot.
I didn't call Roy.
Yeah. So just throwing that out there, I've been looking at it throughout this week, trying to see if it's gonna. I was hoping it'd be at 15,000 tonight, but it's all right. It's getting there. So I just wanted to share that with you because I was. This
is cool.
This little baby's grown up a lot.
That's a nice milestone to think about.
It is.
We tripled in size.
I remember when Tim was a big
every month I see that come across my bank account, and I always have to go. It's like tell my wife, "What did you buy on YouTube?" It's like, no wait, it was her. It's me. I forget about it because it's just automatic. It's like it's good.
That's funny. That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate your support. All right, well let's go into
let's do final thoughts.
Let's do it. I wanna anyone's welcome to stay after this, but I want to talk to Dennis about something. But you're welcome to stay. It's not private. I have an idea I want to pitch to him. But anyone have any final thoughts they want to share?
Yeah, in less than 4 weeks, at Royce City, we'll be having a speaker engagement, esoteric in nature. The internal and the external, with none other than Justin Jones and Dennis Yates and Cody Stewart and David Rogers, who I had on my podcast last Friday. We talked about the York Rite, which was fun. And then our final speaker is going to be Brother Robert Park, who you were talking about earlier. So less than 4 weeks. It's going to be fun.
Wow,
I'll have to put that on my calendar.
Close.
Oh,
yeah.
Enough, I'm assuming that is going to last a 12-hour length of lodge, because when you get those two here, I mean, especially with the gates, it's going to be a while.
Right.
It's all value. 12
Yeah.
hours of value.
Right. Yes. Awesome. Which let me get with Robert and make sure of a time when we can get that Zoom meeting done. I forgot all about it. I've had so many things happening this week. So let me get with Robert, see when a good date is for him for us to get together and talk about the event, and then Justin and I'll host it and we'll make it happen.
Love it.
That's a good reminder. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. Anyone else have something?
Well, along those same lines, Goliad will have a special guest speaker come up in September. Brother
Chris
Yates,
Williams.
Chris Williams will be there in September. We've got speakers lined up pretty much all year. So Chris Williams will be there in September, and then Brother Cody Cockcroft will be there in October. And then after October, we have a few other events going on. So we'll talk about
For those of you who don't know Chris Williams, he is the author of the John Deacon books. And also There Is No Texas Without Freemasonry. And he has got a great presentation planned for Goliad, and he right now in his possession he has a replica of the George Washington apron that he'll be bringing. Don't tell the brothers. Let's make that a surprise for them. But everybody listening on the show, if you've ever wanted to see what that apron looked like firsthand, you'll get a good. And this is at the benefit of or the grace of past Grand Master Gower, Mike Gower. He let Chris borrow the apron to show while he gives this presentation, and so so big things happen to make this presentation happen for Goliad. So if you're anywhere close, you need to show up. I didn't hear you, Justin.
Oh, I forgot I was on. I said, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be a cool thing.
I did more oohing and awing than that, but that was a summary of it. Very cool. I forgot
So Justin, if you want to drive on down to Goliad that night, I mean, come on, we'll have you.
Okay. Does anyone else have something? If not, I'll just I'll keep it short tonight and just say I appreciate all of you as always. This circle is what makes all this worthwhile, in my opinion, and hearing the success stories coming from your lodge, not just y'all's lodges. We have other people that watch, they may not be in the circle, but they'll come up to us during Grand Lodge and say, hey, you're the reason I finished my fellowcraft and went to Master, or you're the reason I came back to Freemasonry, or you're the reason we joined, or hey, we got some great ideas and our lodges turned around because of you. So that's what makes all this worthwhile. Talking with y'all, hearing those kind of success stories, that means everything. So definitely appreciate everything that y'all do. Appreciate y'all taking what we talk about back to your lodges, and appreciate your support as well. And anyone listening to this, if you want in on this, right, plus what you don't see that we also do, there's a click the button, become a member, join the inner circle, and it's invaluable, right? It's really something else. I really enjoy the community that we built. So thank each and every one of you. We got Dennis.
That's it. Okay. So going back to the beginning of this show, talking about learning your work, brothers out there, I joke about the fact that I don't know much. I'm not a C certificate holder, or B or A, whatever. I don't worry about that so much, but I joke about it that I don't, but I do care. You know, our fraternity is separated from the rest of the world by our ritual, and so don't take that lightly, and don't leave it to somebody else for the rest of your your existence, because that somebody else will not always be there. And then what's going to happen? You're going to lose it. And I've seen that happen in so many lodges. And in fact, when you are ready, when a lodge is ready to die, it's lost its ritual. You can tell they've kind of lost their way. And so you don't want to start down that negative spiral. And not only that, but how are you going to really learn the lessons if you're not studying the ritual? And that is something I can tell you that I do. I mean, I would have never been able to give that talk that I did at Goliad, would I, if I didn't study the ritual? That's supposed to be a nod, Josh. I would have never been able to give that talk if I didn't study the ritual. I wouldn't be able to give any of the talks I do if I didn't study the ritual, not just memorize it, but study it. So we have it for a reason. There are lessons to be learned, and if we're not actually studying it and contemplating it, like our talk tonight on altruism and where our motives really lie, and it's okay to have different motives, but we have to be truthful in what those motives are. We have to understand what they are so that we can do what we're planning to do and not be manipulative or deceitful in our practices. And that's very important as we go along, because ultimately we are, still a lot of us still are in that stage to some degree of what's in it for me. I mean, every one of us gets something from the charity that we give to others. And like I was saying before, even with me running around speaking all the time, in fact, I just committed to another one while we were on the show. But like I said, that benefits me. It made me feel good. It boosted my ego because I feel like somebody wants to listen to me, right? They believe in the things that I have to say. And so we are in that, and ultimately we will come to a time where we're not. But the main thing is that we need to be honest with ourselves. If we're not honest with ourselves, how are we going to be honest with anybody else? So when we're thinking about ritual, when we're thinking about Freemasonry, when we're thinking about our family, when we're thinking about work, in all things, we must be true in what we do. Period. I have no fear of what somebody thinks about me for not knowing the ritual as well as not memorizing it as well as somebody else. I have no fear, don't care. But I have that truth. I know that. And I'm not going to pretend to be something I'm not when I know that that's not me. My forte is digging deep. That's what I like to do. And it's okay. We need people like me. We need people like the ritualists out there. We need people that can do the fish fries. We need people that can find those, that can work with the schools and do those scholarships. We need each and every one of the members that we have in some way to keep this ball rolling, because we're a lot more complex than any one person can offer by themselves. Just like Brother Dutton was speaking on earlier, it's not necessarily what we do alone, it's what we do together that makes the difference in our world. So with that, I would like to thank you for all your support. Thank you for getting us up to this 15,000 mark. And I'm grateful for all of our brothers here tonight and the ones that show up religiously every weekend and listen to us ramble and have good conversations off the show with people on the chat. And I appreciate the people that are contributing to that so that we can keep discussing on what we're discussing. If it wasn't for all the support we have in so many different facets, we would not be who we are today. And I can assure you all that thought of altruism, I didn't define it, but I have it regularly, just like Robert Park does. I have it regularly, even with this show, on how we've got that balance of doing good and having something good to offer, while at the same time, we are wanting membership. We are wanting to grow this thing, but not at the expense of what we do for our brothers. So with that, thank you, brothers. I love you. Friends as well. Thank you for joining us. Keep it between the points.